Your joints aren't just aging, your kitchen is aging them. That's a bold claim. So let's look at the proof. Scientists have identified over 20 distinct compounds called AGEs, advanced glycation end products. They build up in your body from the food you eat, and more specifically, from how you cook it. Here's what almost nobody tells men over 55. The cooking methods you've been told are the healthy choice grilling, roasting, pan-searing are actually the biggest source of these compounds in your diet. Think about that for a second. You've spent years doing the right thing, skipping the deep fryer, firing up the grill instead, searing your chicken in a hot pan because it feels cleaner than breading it and dropping it in oil. And by almost every measure, calories, saturated fat, processed ingredients, that instinct is correct. But AGEs don't play by those rules. When you cook at high, dry heat, you dramatically spike the AGE content of your food. And here's the part that makes this personal. After 55, your body's natural ability to clear these compounds slows down. In your 30s and 40s, your system could process and flush a good portion of them before they ever cause damage. Not anymore. Now they don't just pass through, they accumulate. Meal after meal, year after year, researchers have traced exactly where they land. AGEs bind to a receptor called RAGE on the cells inside your cartilage. Once that happens, it switches on inflammation, and that inflammation goes to work breaking down collagen, the structural protein holding your joint together. The joint stiffens from the inside, slowly, in a way that has nothing to do with impact, old injuries, or just getting older. Which means even if you're doing everything else right, lean protein, vegetables, nothing processed, watching your weight the way you're cooking that food could still be working against you. Every single night. In the same pan you reach for because you think it's the smart choice. This is why so many men over 55 notice it creeping in. Knees that ache going up the stairs, shoulders that feel tight and locked every single morning until you've moved around for 20 minutes. Joints that crack and pop more than they used to. And the frustrating part, nothing else about their health or their diet has changed. They're doing everything they think they're supposed to do. Here's the part that changes everything. This isn't about eating differently. You don't need to cut foods you love, drop carbs, or start another diet you'll abandon in 3 weeks. It's about cooking differently. And the fix researchers found the one that actually moves the needle is almost embarrassingly simple. Here's what's coming in this video. 5 kitchen changes that lower the AGE load hitting your joints without cutting a single food out of your diet. No new grocery list. No giving up steak night. Just 5 shifts in how you cook the food you already eat. But before we get into the full list, I want to show you one of them right now because this is the one that surprised even the researchers studying it. In one published study, scientists took beef and roasted it at 150 degrees Celsius. Standard preparation, nothing unusual. Then they took the same cut of beef and did one thing differently before cooking it. They soaked it first in an acidic marinade, just lemon juice or vinegar, nothing exotic, and let it sit before hitting that exact same heat. Same temperature. Same cooking time. Same cut of meat. The only difference was what happened before the pan. And the result wasn't a small improvement. The marinated beef came out with roughly half the AGE level of the beef that went in dry. Not 15% less. Not a marginal difference you'd need a lab to detect. Half. Sit with that for a second. One extra step done before you even turn on the stove, before the pan gets hot, before any cooking happens at all, cut the damage nearly in half. That's not a minor tweak to your routine. That's one of the single highest leverage changes you can make in your entire kitchen, and it takes less effort than seasoning your food. Here's what makes this even more frustrating. Most men who cook their own meals have never done this. Not because it's difficult, not because it takes special equipment or rare ingredients. Lemon juice and vinegar are sitting in almost every kitchen in America right now. They haven't done it because nobody has ever told them why it matters. This isn't information that gets passed down. It's not on the label. It's not something your doctor mentions in a 15-minute visit focused on blood pressure and cholesterol. It's buried in research journals that most people never read, describing a mechanism that most people have never heard of, protecting against damage that most people don't even know is happening. That ends today. Because once you understand why this works, and it's genuinely simple chemistry, not some complicated biohack, you'll never look at your marinade the same way again. And this is just one of the 5 fixes we're covering. Some of the others take even less effort than this one. Some work on foods you're already eating tonight. So stick with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to have a complete, practical system for protecting your joints from the inside one that starts in your kitchen, not in a pharmacy. Before we get into the full countdown, 2 quick things. First, I know how this works. You hear a claim like, cut AGs in half, and your gut reaction is skepticism, and it should be. There's a lot of noise out there, a lot of channels making bold promises with nothing behind them. So I'm not going to ask you to just take my word for it. Every single study I'm referencing in this video, the roasted beef research, the cooking method comparisons, the herb and spice studies, all of it is linked directly in the description below. Go check it yourself. Read the methodology. Look at the actual numbers. I'd rather you trust the research than trust me, because the research is what's going to protect your joints, not my word. Second, I want to ask you something, because your answer actually matters for the rest of this video. How do you usually cook your meat? Grilled, fried, baked, slow cooked, something else entirely? I want you to drop it in the comments right now before you keep watching, because as we go through this list, I want you thinking about your own kitchen, not some generic example. Here's why this matters. A lot of health content treats every viewer the same. It gives you a list of 5 things and lets you figure out where you land. I don't want to do that. I want you to know specifically whether your go-to cooking method is quietly working against your joints or whether you're already doing better than you think. So take 30 seconds. Comment below with how you cook your meat most nights. I'm going through the comments today personally and replying to as many of you as I can because I want to help as many guys as possible figure out exactly where their own habits might be causing this damage without them realizing it. This isn't about making you feel bad about how you've been cooking. Most of what you've been told about healthy cooking, grilling instead of frying, roasting instead of breading, was reasonable advice based on calories and fat content. Nobody was lying to you. They just weren't looking at this specific mechanism because AGEs and their connection to joint inflammation are a relatively newer area of research, one that hasn't made it into mainstream nutrition advice yet. You're not behind. You're just about to be ahead of almost everyone else your age who's still doing this the old way. All right, comment dropped? Good. Let's get into the 5 fixes, starting with the smallest lever and building up to the one that outperforms everything else on this list. Number 5. Switch dry heat for moist heat. Most guys think grilling and roasting are the healthy alternative to fried food. Calorie-wise, that's often true. But when it comes to AGEs, dry heat is the worst offender there is. Research cataloging AGE content across cooking methods found that grilling, roasting, and frying can spike AGE levels 10 to 100 times higher than raw food. That's not a small gap, that's an entirely different category of exposure. The fix doesn't mean giving up your favorite meals. Build in 1 or 2 moist heat dinners a week, poaching, steaming, boiling, or a slow cooker. In direct comparisons, poached or steamed chicken measured at less than a quarter of the AGEs found in that same chicken roasted or broiled. Fry that chicken in oil instead, and you're looking at roughly 5 times the AGEs of the poached version. Same bird. Wildly different outcome, based entirely on method. Number 4, turn the heat down. It's not just the method, it's the dial. AGE formation is directly tied to how hot your pan gets and how long food sits at that temperature. In one comparison, scrambled eggs cooked over medium-low heat had about half the AGEs of the same eggs cooked on high. Same eggs, same pan, same technique. The only variable that changed was the temperature setting, and that alone cut the damage in half. Number 3, stop chasing the char. That deep brown crust, those blackened grill marks, those crispy, caramelized edges you might actually seek out because they taste incredible. That's the Maillard reaction, and it's exactly where AGs concentrate the hardest. You don't need to eat everything pale and steamed. Just pull food off the heat a shade earlier and trim the deeply charred bits instead of hunting for more of them. Number 2. Cook with the right herbs and spices. Researchers at Kansas State University tested a range of herbs and spices for their ability to block harmful compound formation during high-heat cooking. Rosemary came out as the strongest performer, with ginger and turmeric also showing meaningful protective effects. Their antioxidants appear to interrupt the chemical reaction before it fully forms. A rosemary-crusted steak isn't just flavor, it's active chemistry happening while the food cooks. Number 1. Marinate in acid before you cook. This is the one I opened with. In the study, beef was marinated in lemon juice or vinegar for 1 hour, then roasted at 150 degrees Celsius, the exact same time and temperature as an unmarinated batch. Result: roughly half the AGE level. The protocol: for a pound of meat, 4 to 6 tablespoons of lemon juice, lime juice, or vinegar enough to cover it for at least an hour. Even 10 minutes shows a measurable effect. It's the single biggest lever on this list for a few minutes of prep. If you've made it this far, hit like and subscribe. Now let's stack all 5 together. So let's go back to what I promised at the start of this video, the one habit that outperformed everything else on this list. I told you it was coming. Here it is, fully explained. AGEs form through what's called the Maillard reaction, the same chemistry responsible for making seared food brown, crispy, and frankly delicious. It's the reaction that gives you that steakhouse crust and that golden edge on roasted vegetables. It happens fastest in a dry, high-heat, neutral to alkaline environment, which describes almost every popular cooking method men over 55 rely on. Acid disrupts that reaction. That's the whole mechanism, and it's simpler than most nutrition advice you've heard. When you marinate meat in something like lemon juice or vinegar, you're lowering the pH of the food's surface before it ever touches the pan. And that lower pH measurably slows how fast glycation compounds form, even when the cooking temperature and cooking time stay exactly the same. You're not cooking longer. You're not cooking cooler. You're changing the chemistry of the surface before heat ever gets involved. This isn't a theory or a hunch. It's what researchers actually measured in a controlled comparison. Beef marinated in vinegar or lemon juice for an hour, then roasted at 150 degrees Celsius, came out with roughly half the AGE level of beef, roasted the exact same way, with no marinade at all. Same heat, same time, half the damage. All from one extra step done the night before. That takes less effort than seasoning your food with salt and pepper. And here's something that didn't make it into the earlier teaser. This effect isn't limited to AGEs, and it isn't limited to meat. In a separate study on grilled vegetables, researchers tested acidic marinades, red grape vinegar, apple vinegar, and lemon juice against a batch of vegetables grilled without any marinade. All 3 marinades strongly suppressed the formation of other harmful compounds created by charring. Red grape vinegar performed the best of the 3, cutting them by roughly 3/4. So this isn't a beef-specific trick. It's a chemistry principle that applies broadly across proteins and vegetables alike. Anywhere high heat meets a dry surface. Here's the full protocol in one place. For about a pound of meat, use 4 to 6 tablespoons of lemon juice, lime juice, or vinegar enough liquid to fully cover the food and let it sit for at least 1 hour before cooking. Short on time on a weeknight? Even a 10-minute soak has shown a measurable drop in AG formation, so there's genuinely no excuse to skip it, even when you're rushing to get dinner on the table. And if you want to stack the deck even further, pair the marinade with a spice rub, rosemary, turmeric, or ginger, and you're combining 2 of the strongest, most evidence-backed defenses on this entire list into a single 5-minute prep step before your pan ever gets hot. So here's the full picture, all in one place. 5 kitchen habits: switching some meals to moist heat cooking, turning your stovetop down from high to medium, pulling food off the heat before it chars, cooking with rosemary, turmeric, or ginger, and marinating your meat in an acid before it ever touches the pan. None of these require you to change what you eat. You don't need to cut out red meat. You don't need to give up your grill forever. You don't need another restrictive diet that lasts 3 weeks before you abandon it out of frustration. Every one of these 5 fixes is about changing how you prepare the food you already enjoy, not replacing it with something you don't. And here's the part worth remembering. You don't need to do all 5 perfectly, starting tonight, to see a difference. When you stack even 2 or 3 of these together, say, turning the heat down and marinating before you cook, you're meaningfully cutting the AGE load your joints are exposed to, meal after meal, week after week, without giving up a single food you actually look forward to eating. That compounding effect matters more than people realize. This isn't a one-time fix, and it's not a miracle switch that undoes decades of wear overnight. It's a shift in your daily habits that pays off the same way the damage accumulated in the first place gradually, meal by meal, over months and years. The difference is, now it's working in your favor instead of against you. So where do you actually start? Not by trying to overhaul your entire kitchen overnight. That's how most health changes fail: too much, too fast, abandoned within a week. Instead, pick one habit from this list. Just one. Start tonight with dinner. If that's marinating your chicken for an hour before you cook it, do that. If it's turning your stovetop down one notch, do that. Build from there, 1 week at a time, until these habits stop feeling like effort and start feeling like how you've always cooked. If I had to point you toward the single highest leverage change on this entire list, it's marinating. Done consistently, it's the easiest change to make, it takes the least time, and it has the strongest evidence behind it of anything we covered today. Start there if you're only going to start with one thing. If this video helped you take one real step towards stronger, healthier joints today, subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Every like, every comment, every share helps this reach more men over 45 who want to stay active, stay independent, and keep doing the things they love without their joints holding them back. And if you dropped a comment earlier about how you cook your meat, thank you. I'm reading every single one, and I'll be replying throughout the day. The next video reveals even more. I'll see you there.